Were you the one who were telling me, right, that Ahmed took drumming lessons?
6 months of drumming lessons
Are you sure it
for
wasn't 6 hours?
yeah, like just going like that.
Just blast beats. Yeah, just all day.
Yeah.
And
Uh
it's funny too, that part in the very beginning too. I remember thinking, okay, this is like the intro. Like, this is it. Like, we're gonna kick off.
yeah.
It's like a real song here, and then that's just kind of it. And then she just starts howling. And I'm just like, oh my god.
And then like when he checked his email and then she was like we just like a little soundboard and then she was probably just wailing some crap also. And I'm like, oh jeez.
I love that his
Okay.
first response was like, I didn't even get back to that.
He's like, I'm
Maybe.
selling everything so we could get back on tour. All right. Oscar season. It is Oscar season.
So what are you doing this summer? I heard Black Gammon's going on tour. You gonna be ready for that?
Ooh, I got my tickets. That god awful screaming. Maybe that's why he went deaf.
Noise
Spoiler
score.
alert.
Noise
Spoiler
score. That's
alert.
what it was. Yeah, I'm not sure. What to do about that. All right, man. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. What's up, bud?
Welcome back. Welcome back.
everybody. Welcome back to the Nightcap. Cheers.
Cheers.
Just having a nice evening.
We're doing a kind of an indie kind of hipster film,
Yes, we
and it's
are.
almost Easter. So I'm drinking a double IPA, Bunny with a Chainsaw,
Bunny with a
by
chainsaw. Wow.
by Paperback Brewing Company. It's very hoppy.
Oh, that's
Steve.
right up my alley. I'm actually drinking an IPA as well. Little Stone Delicious IPA. Very popular.
Cheers.
Very good. So, and also, anybody has any gluten intolerances, you can drink this as well. Just as a side note, fun fact.
I say it's hoppy, Steve, because there's a rabbit on the front. Just in
Man,
case you weren't
I didn't get it the first time.
just
but
in
now
case
I-
you
but now
weren't
I
picking
do.
down what I was picking up what I was laying down there, buddy.
I'm glad we circled back to that because I totally missed it the first time. So I can tell I'm already. I'm not on my A game tonight, but I don't know. Let's see here. Let's get into
We'll
this.
see.
So what are we doing? Like you said, it's Oscar season. A lot of awards right now. Interesting time of
Yes,
year.
and then with all due respect, and I'm saying this with all due respect, we're doing Sound of Metal,
Yes.
and this was the only Best Picture nominee that I even had any remote interest in watching. So, with all due respect to the other nominees, I said that with all due respect.
I always think of you as that man who's got his finger on the pulse of like the Academy and all these people. But yeah, well, we're gonna get into it in a second. But if it's your first time watching the show, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And also, I'm going to go ahead and put up our grading graphic right now. A big part of what we do here on the Nightcap is we like to break down movies and give them a full grade, and that's what we plan to do here for the Sound of Metal, which is nominated for Best Picture and as well as a handful of other
A
awards.
slew of other
So yeah,
categories.
critically acclaimed. So we're looking forward to getting into that. But also want to encourage anybody on Instagram to follow us as well. I'll go ahead and put that graphic up now. The period night period cap. So you can find
Bam.
us on there. There's a lot going on right now. It's kind of a fun time of year. Even though it's blockbuster season's around the corner, still a lot going on in terms of movies. But man, Sound of Metal. So actually showing that it was produced in 2019.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing it, coming around in Prime there. It's an Amazon movie, Amazon original, I guess you could say. And, I'm a big metal fan. We like to review metal songs here on this channel. So it definitely caught my attention. But, it's no spoilers here. The song's about a drummer who loses his hearing. So I got to admit, I wasn't exactly chomping at the bit to go see it. It's kind of I don't want to say it's a downer, but, it's definitely
It's-
not a feel-good movie.
Yeah, it's not the amazing Snyder cut, which unfortunately it's too late to put that up for any consideration for any Oscars. Maybe next year.
They got my
So-
nomination, but
They
apparently,
got my nomination
yeah,
too.
I don't know.
So yeah, I only got interested into this because I was looking up other pictures for Best Picture nominations to see if maybe we could review one, and that list, boy, not a lot of interest. Not a lot of interest. And then I saw this, and then I saw it in the front of Prime. I was like, hey,
Yeah.
why not?
Hey,
Why
it seems
not?
like it's right up our alley. So let's get into the synopsis, and then we'll go ahead and break down into our grading here. All right, so Sound of Metal is a 2019 American drama film directed and co-written by Darius Martyr, starring Riz Ahmed, Olivia Cook, Paul Racy, Lord Ridloff, and Matthew Almeric. The story is about a heavy metal drummer who loses his hearing. The film had its world premiere at the Platform Prize program at 2019 Toronto International Film Festival. It was released theatrically in released theatrically November 20th, 2020, and
Okay.
began streaming on Prime. They don't have a budget listed here. The movie was nominated for six Academy Awards.
Mm.
So let's get into it here. Well, actually, include as far as the awards that it's nominated for. So, Best Picture, Best Original Screenplay, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Film Editing, and Best Sound. So let's talk about the plot of the story here. We meet this drummer Ruben, right, who's in a band with his girlfriend, traveling on tour, dive bar
On
tour, I guess.
tour.
I
They
don't know.
booked a tour.
They booked a tour, all right, and we don't really get an explanation for why he's losing his hearing. If it's like genetic or just degenerative or what.
They he briefly mentioned it when he was talking to the doctor in the very beginning. They said it might either be the loud drumming, or it could be like an autoimmune disease. He kind of
Mhm.
mentioned that, but they never really gave a flat a definitive answer.
And so right away, this happens fairly early in the movie. This happens, and he loses his hearing rather quickly,
Yeah.
and so you follow his story of him just kind of dealing with that, and how his life changes, and that's really the gist of it in terms of the overall plot. I mean, what did you have in terms of your note of the plot?
The plot, I give it a 7 out of 10. Obviously, like I said, it's not like a Snyder cut or anything. It's like it's very straightforward. It's a drummer who pretty much loses his life. This is his life. His music is his life, and literally overnight, he loses what did they say? Like 80% of his hearing, 80%
Yep.
plus. So, and then add that to the fact that you find out later on that he's an addict also, and obviously something traumatic like this, you're gonna think he's gonna relapse. So you get that story. It's pretty much, yeah. The plot is a drummer that loses his hearing, but the story doesn't really begin until after he loses his hearing. That's what really when the story actually kicks up.
Yeah, in terms of the grading for it, I ended up giving it a 3 in terms of plot, just because it's fairly predictable in the way it plays out. I wasn't sure going into it. I was kind of waiting for if there's gonna be any twists or turns or anything in it.
Hmm.
But the story, starts rather quickly, and we get into it, and then it kind of plays out kind of exactly how you would anticipate it to. There's really not too many twists and turns. Not that that's anything wrong. I mean, stories don't have to have all these types of plot twists and stuff to
Yeah.
keep me entertained. But at the same time, too, it just, like I said, felt very predictable, and then emotionally, it felt very predictable too. As he's playing through these
Mhm.
emotions, kind of first denial, and then kind of grief, and kind of feeling sorry for himself, and then you're a little bit afraid he might relapse into his drug addiction,
Right.
and then just having to shape a new identity for himself. It kind of all plays out exactly how I felt it was going to, and I felt a lot of times like during the movie I was kind of just waiting for these steps to happen
Mhm.
versus I don't know, like any kind of feeling of suspense or anything.
Yeah, I feel you on that. It is rather predictable, but then it's real life. Real life, if this happened to you, you'll get those kind of steps. You'll get the fear, the anxiety, and then the denial, and then you'll go through all these phases. So it's very realistic in that way.
What'd you give it in terms of plot?
I give it a 7.
A 7. Oh wow, okay.
I was very, very generous.
Yeah, you were okay. Well, I mean, let's get into the production, then we'll get into the performances.
Okay.
In terms of production, I don't have a ton of notes. It seems like it was fairly small budget,
Yeah.
in terms of the way they shot it, and in the different locations that we see it at. A lot of in terms of cinematography, there was a lot of handheld camera work, which I thought
Hmm.
kind of played into like the kind of uneasiness he's dealing
Yeah.
with a lot of the times. Kind of makes it feel a little frenetic. But I also thought too, it could have they could have had a little more creativity in terms of the different shots, and also too in terms of sound and sound design. I'm not going to geek out on that and pretend like I know to really appreciate it. I will say at the end, once he gets his hearing aids, and they're
Yeah.
panning the sound back and forth, and they kind of do that weird mix where it's a lot of highs and mids. It is
Yeah.
very disorienting, which I'm sure that's the whole point of it, what they're
Right.
going for there. But in terms of production, I didn't give it a super high grade. I think I ended up giving it a 14.
Okay,
So
we're pretty close. I gave it a 15,
okay.
and pretty much it's all for what you were mentioning, the sound, or at points lack thereof. Obviously it got nominated for sound design. it really did a good way of capturing what he was going through. It was the confusion, the being disoriented. Like I felt like it did a good job in terms of that. And it honestly, this is the kind of movie that I felt like it would have been better if you watched it in the big screen, so you're kind of surrounded by that. Or if you were watching it at home, maybe watch it with headphones on, if that makes sense, so you could
Yeah.
actually feel what they intended to make you feel, like, the being alone, being, confused, going to the steps of what he was going through.
Yeah, I agree, especially what you said about having headphones. I actually did watch it at home, on my
Okay.
tablet with, noise canceling headphones, and I
Hmm.
will say it does feel like those times where they're playing the muffled sounds,
Yeah,
it's oddly claustrophobic, that
it
that kind
is.
of feeling, and it
Absolutely
does make
is.
you almost give kind of like a heightened sense, almost like a panicky sense.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is, and it really plays into the fear. Like it's a really just a base fear, like for anybody, right? The idea that you might lose your sight or
Hmm.
your hearing or anything else, any kind of handicap like that. So we all know how to relate to it fairly easily. And it, like I said, it does cause like that kind of tension. And I do think they played well into that in terms of everything else. I thought they left a little bit on the table, like I said, especially in terms of like cinematography and just the overall. I mean, granted, this is a more realistic movie, so they're not going to
Yeah.
do heavy color grading. There's no need for special
Yeah.
effects or anything.
Yeah.
But I thought they could have played it up maybe a little bit more. That's all I really have in terms of production. Let's get into the performances. Why don't you go ahead and kick
Okay.
it off?
The performances, like, this is pretty much what carried the movie, obviously, because best actor nomination, best supporting actor nomination. So the acting I gave 25, and obviously we got to start with what's Riz Ahmed. Pretty much this train chugs with him, and the performance he gave was excellent. So I got to give him his props, because obviously everyone's talking about his performance here, well deserved. He conveys like all the emotions of someone who probably will go through all this. And then Olivia Cook, honestly, she did a great job also as Lou. But to me, the performance I really enjoyed the most was Racy as Joe, the Vietnam vet, kind of like head of this death retreat or rehab or what have you.
Yeah, it was like a halfway home or of some sort. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was very it was very authentic. You almost wanted to I wanted more of him, like his story.
Yeah, he
Cause
really did a great job of doing conveying a lot with not a
yeah,
lot of words, just in his emotions and like his
right.
inflection and these kind of like, dare I say, father son moments with
Yeah,
Ruben's character, and you could tell that he really cared about these people here at the place, especially that part where he is forced to kind of ask him to leave the
yeah.
home.
I wanted to
You could
definitely
see his
mention that
heart
because
breaking, yeah, and you're right. I mean, I will say, I know Ahmed is nominated for Best Actor award
mhm,
on this one. I don't know that I was totally enraptured by his performance. I don't think it was bad
okay,
by any means, but at the same time, too, there wasn't really a lot of arc. And granted, he's limited to the script. You know what I mean? So if it's
right.
not there, he can't put it in there. But he's almost the same character up until the very last scene. And he's kind of this already kind of frantic character. We know he has a past. We don't really get to see or hear much more about it. In terms of his kind of like anxiety levels, he's kind of like this high intense of anxiety throughout the whole
Right.
movie, and he just kind of stays there in that place, in that zone, that kind of just kind of fight or flight look in his eyes throughout the whole movie. But like you said, I think Joe's character for me, I thought he did an excellent job, and I think he's nominated as well.
Yeah, best
I mean,
supporting.
I'm not sure who he's going up against, but I mean, in terms of what I've seen, I thought he's definitely worthy of it. And like you said, also too, Lou's character,
Yeah.
the girlfriend, I think she does a good job too. She's got a lot of complexity too to her story and the father and
Yeah.
all stuff like that. So, some strong performances. I wasn't necessarily blown away by any of them. I think Joe was probably the most. I ended up giving it a 22
Okay.
on it.
Fair.
So yeah, solid, very solid. What about you?
I gave it a 25, and then that was pretty much based on, Ahmed's performance, and but also a lion's share for Racy's performance. You mentioned the very, not end scene, but the end scene between Joe's character and Ruben's character, which, when he asked him to leave, you that was very authentic. You could tell that his heart was breaking too, because it was a huge betrayal. If I could like say that, it was a huge betrayal, because he has this retreat in terms of, all these deaf people telling him we're not handicapped. We could, this is, we could live lives normally, or as normal as possible for us. But then when he came and got his surgery to actually hear again, you're telling everybody in that retreat, in that like rehab facility, no, you're not good enough. So that's why he asked him to leave. So I could definitely feel the betrayal there. And yeah, and then it was a great line too, like in the it kind of when he was fixing the eaves, when he was hammering it, Ruben was hammering the roof or whatever, and he was like, there's nothing to fix here. At first I thought, there's nothing to fix in the house, but he was saying like there's nothing to fix. Like you don't have to fix anything. There's nothing wrong with you. So that was I
Yeah,
like that.
that's a great point.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that when I first heard it in there. That is a great point, and that kind of right is foreshadowing to his the way his psyche is portraying
Mhm.
all these people here in this place. And like you said, not everyone there is going to have access to this surgery. And one
Yeah.
thing I will say too, just I mean, as we kind of transition into directing, it's honestly a great story just for awareness. I mean, this isn't a world that I'm familiar with at all.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Fortunately, I don't know anyone with any kind of hearing difficulties or hearing loss like
Mhm.
that. And pray to God that I never do. But it's definitely brought awareness to me to think about the people that are put in these situations,
Mhm.
and it's also cool too that the way that they portrayed the home itself and everything, not asking of anything of him, just being able to stay there for free, right? There's that scene where he's
Right.
like, "Oh, the church pays for it." He's like, "Hey, we're not religious." He's like, "It's fine. It's just, that's not what this is about." I'm glad that they didn't take any cheap shots, nowadays, especially with anything kind of even remotely religious, there's always
Mhm.
like kind of a jab there or something, or even kind of charitable, that there's, some ulterior motives, right, going on. Instead, all these characters were really pretty stand up people, and that's good too. And then I'll
Yeah.
let you just focus on Ruben's story,
Yeah, and honestly, like the arc that I liked the most for Ruben was when he finally started opening up. When he was with the kids and that deaf teacher, what's her name, Ridloff. She,
Mhm.
for what she was, she kind of was us, did a good job too for what it was. So that was actually the part, the his arc that I liked the most when he started opening up and kind of enjoying like his life, like in that little retreat there. So, but yeah, man.
Well, let's get into the like overall directing score. So, I mean, I ended up giving it a 22. Um,
Okay.
I think this movie is a good movie, but I can't say that I can really say that I was really emotionally affected by it. And I actually I get into dramas. I'm not someone who's like, oh, I need action or this or that or
Right.
a bunch of CG to get me, going. I like performances, strong performances, but I just felt like it didn't have a fully developed plot. I think that's really what holds it back. And also to the scale of the time that's telling here, it's telling a very specific time when he's going through
Yeah.
this transition. I almost felt like if they would have stretched the story more, not in terms of time,
No,
like on
no,
screen,
because it's already
but
2
just in
hours.
terms of got to see them a little bit more in the beginning, get to know Ruben's
Mhm.
character a little bit more, the backstory, maybe seeing how maybe music is kind of saving his life and Lou, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so shattering when this happens to him because now it's almost like he's got to start from scratch. Then also too, like you said, when he begins to reach out with the children and the schooling and stuff and kind of finding a new identity. And then also too, it didn't really feel like it had a proper resolution. It's like
Yeah,
at the very end, he finally comes to grips that things will not be like normal, even though he would like
right.
to have them. And we just kind of end there in that moment, right? In that quiet moment where he's sitting on the bench. And so, just for me overall, I don't think it was bad. I thought pacing was okay. I was never bored, but it just all felt like, again, just to me, it just felt a little predictable. And I wasn't necessarily overly entertained either, if that makes any sense.
Well, I definitely feel you on that. I gave the directing 24 out of 30, and mostly because of what I kind of touched on in the production in terms of the sound. The director, conveyed a good way of, feeling what Ruben was going through, which I really appreciated. And but other than that, I don't know what else to say. Like it made you like feel how he was, like with the switching back and forth from the sound to the no sound to maybe hearing it muffled to seeing the subtitles when he finally started to learn like the American Sign Language. But the beef I had was like it never really you never understood how long he was there because he learned sign language pretty damn fast unless he was there for months and months, but we never got to understand how long he was there. So you would think that he was there for a good stretch of time if he learned sign language pretty well.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like the story, like you said, he starts to progress where he's really coming to grips with it. He's starting to fit in into the deaf community. and then it kind of regresses and he goes back, but you understand it, right? Because he still says he
Mhm.
still has hope that things can go back to the way that they were. And
Right.
obviously he goes to visit Lou and sees her father and everything. He realizes, okay, this is not going to happen. And then it kind
Ah,
of just drops us off right there. And we just don't really know what happens to him. I mean, the guy's homeless for all
yeah.
intents and
Does he
purposes.
go back to like the retreat since he's like, hey, guess what? I took out these crazy implants that tricked me into thinking like I'm, hearing. Yeah, there's no, like you said, there's no resolution, there's no ending. But then most indie films and like, films like this never have like it never ties a bow on it. Maybe he went back, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I hear you on that one, but for me, as just as a viewer of the movies, I don't know. Personally, for me, that's what kind of worked against it. But yeah, let's get into X Factor here. I gave it a 2 in terms of X
Okay.
Factor. I kind of struggle with this movie. Like I said, I think it's performances are done well. The
Hmm.
storytelling's okay, but it's hard to like know like how to feel like at the end of this movie. Like just because, like I said, there's not a proper resolution.
Yeah.
It's let's be honest, it's kind of a downer. You know what I mean? You're watching some person go through a kind of a horrible
Yes.
transition,
Total
um,
bummer.
and at the end of the movie, I'm just kind of feeling like, okay, who do I recommend this to? You know what I mean? It's not really, it's
Yeah, I mean,
dramatic, but I don't know. It's kind of tragic in a sense at the same time, but it's not overly too. I don't know. Well, what do you think?
I don't know, man. It's tough to say because I gave the X Factor actually I gave it pretty high. I gave it a 7.
Oh wow,
For touching on what you said in regards to, opening your eyes to this sort of like, situation. Obviously, like he's an addict and he needs to go to rehab, but he's also disabled, with the hearing. And you wonder, I'm like, holy crap, there are people like that, and they can't go to regular rehab. Otherwise, they can't hear or anything. So that kind of opened my eyes. But yeah, man, I don't know. I didn't hate this movie, like you said, but in terms of who I could recommend it to, I mean, I can still recommend it. You can still watch it. It doesn't suck. So, but yeah, but it's a bummer. It's a spoiler. They don't even get back together at the end. Like that scene in the end when he was in bed and he just kind of knows. He's
yeah.
like, it's okay. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, it's okay. Like you
And
saved my life. And
let's
so,
be realistic too, all right? Black Admin wasn't very good. All right, let's just cut to the chase.
all right.
Right?
Well, yeah. All right.
In a
We
way,
can
this
address it
accident
now.
or this handicap saved both their lives because it was going
Yeah.
nowhere, babe. All right, and
Yeah.
so they needed
Because
the cold truth.
Yeah, because when he was like, doing the drumming, like the drumming at the very end, like in the very beginning, and then I was like, all right, he's rocking out. And then she started singing, and I
Howling.
was like, oh, maybe he became deaf because of the singing. I don't know, but it
Man
was
loses
very
hearing
good.
due to girlfriend's incessant singing. All right,
Yeah, and then
that's the
like,
subtitle.
and then when they were talking about, when he lost his hearing, he's like, but we have a tour. I'm like, hey, bud, I'm sure your six fans aren't gonna be too heartbroken that you canceled your tour in like this shit bar like in Podunk, Mississippi or something.
I want to see the deleted scene where Joe asks him. He's like, "Do you think this was a curse from God?" After hearing that hearing that song,
It
are you
was
sure this wasn't divine intervention? Because I don't know. I'm just saying. And were you the one who were telling me right that Ahmed took drumming lessons?
6 months of drumming
Are
lessons
you sure it
for
wasn't 6 hours?
yeah, like just going like that.
Just blast beats. Yeah, just all day.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it's funny too that part in the very beginning too. I remember thinking, okay, this is like the intro. Like this is it. Like we're gonna kick off.
yeah.
It's like a real song here, and then that's just kind of it. And then she just starts howling, and I'm just like, oh my god.
And then like when he checked his email and she was like with just like a little soundboard and she was probably just wailing some crap also. And I'm like, oh geez.
I love that his
Okay.
first response was like, I need to get back to that.
He's
my
like, I'm
baby,
selling everything so we could get back on tour. All right.
my baby needs me. All right, I gotta get out of here.
All right. I don't want to shit on their music for it was as much as I am right now. So
It was a rough ride. All right, noise score. All right, but all right, total scores. What did you give in terms of total score?
I still gave it a 78. I don't know. Like, I don't know why I
Hmm.
gave it that high. I didn't hate this movie, but I didn't enjoy this movie. I
Tell me
gave
the
it a
truth. Tell me the truth. Were you crying at the end?
no, I wasn't. I was more confused because I was just like, okay, are you gonna stay in France? Like,
Hey, you
I
never
don't
know. You never know. Maybe he just ended up staying there and joined a new band or something. I ended up giving it a 65. So
okay.
I don't know. I mean, I think that's a pretty adequate score for me, accurate score for me in terms of how I felt about the movie. I didn't hate the movie, but at the same time, it's just kind of like a tepid recommendation in terms
Hmm.
of the film itself. I saw that it was produced by Derek Cianfrance, who's actually a pretty good director in his own right, and I could see his kind of fingerprints on this. I almost kind of wonder if he would have got his hands on this, if maybe he could have wrung it out a little bit more, but who's to say? Yeah, so I guess I'm curious to see what happens in terms of the awards. I'm rooting for Joe's character. Is it Paul Raci? Is that right?
Yeah, Paul Raci.
Yeah,
Definitely. Hopefully, I don't. Like I said, I don't know who the other nominees are for supporting actor, but he did a great job.
yeah, I think he did a great job as well. So, but everyone who's watching, let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Did you see Sound of Metal, and what would you guys give in terms of score? What do you think of
Yeah.
the performances? Do you think it's worthy of an Oscar? And in terms of
You're a Black Gammon fan,
if you're
maybe?
if you're a big Black Gammon fan and you're going to be there this tour this summer, you might bump into me and Al in the front row. I don't know, maybe we'll see, rocking out. But yeah, let us know what you guys think below. Also, like we said, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. That does us a favor here, especially with the algorithm of YouTube. And yeah, we appreciate you guys for watching. And I don't know, Al, you got any of the closing remarks before we wrap it up here?
No, man. Let's tie a bow on this. Unlike the ending of this movie.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, to everybody watching, cheers and have a good one.
Cheers.